So could you speak about the solar flash? It's hard to say when that event might take place. There's a lot of different sort of definitions of what that means. Some think it's like sort of like a rapture or maybe even a judgment day, something related to just like Armageddon or some kind of like reset, not talking about the global reset, but just like, you know, a great awakening. And some have mentioned soul harvest. So it really kind of depends. Not everybody's going to experience these sort of things in the same way. So I feel like it's almost like an event that we're manifesting on our timeline. Of course, we are on that timeline with the collective, and I'm talking about the ascension timeline, because we got to figure that all of us that are here today are on the organic ascension timeline. So, you know, this sort of event I feel correlates with the Pluto returns. Pluto's all about death, rebirth, alchemy, and transformation. Yeah. So it's like a light event. Like, okay, so solar flash. One would think of like liquid light. And those that are energetically and spiritually ready will begin to upgrade DNA. You know, so it's a big sort of leap, I feel, in consciousness. I had dreams about it when I was a kid. This event taking place where light energy came out of the cosmos and hit the earth, and people thought it was like an atomic bomb, but it wasn't. Those that aren't able to handle it will probably struggle with the frequency, and it could wipe out a lot of people. So that's kind of how I look at it. I can't really predict when that's going to happen. And is it definitely going to happen? Or is it a slower sort of unfolding process as we see this great awakening and this ascension window? We'll see. We shall see. But I definitely have always had visions about this taking place. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Is Saturn bad? The Cuban Saturn is what I'm talking about. Yeah, that part of it's not good. You can't really, I mean, a planet's not really bad. I mean, every planet's got sort of a consciousness and an energetic to it, but the planetary bodies connect with us and our own consciousness, our organs, our endocrine system, our chakra system. And so Saturn used to be a sun, and it became dark, and there's a history behind all of that. So it's sort of turned into its negative polarity. And the way that we can help shift Saturn back into a higher vibration is to shift the way that we relate to it, because it's the planet of structure. It rules the law of structure. It's connected to discipline, responsibilities, authority. So the dark part of it is negative authority, control, tyranny, control agendas. So that's the negative part of it. And then when we see the rings connect also with the moon and the Saturn moon matrix and this programming that has impacted a huge portion of our DNA, the junk DNA, and it sort of broadcasts an artificial reality and simulation. So the black cube part of it is what is being fed. The satanic ritual abuse and blood sacrifice on Earth. This is connected to the black cube within Saturn. It's sort of like a harvesting tank, which is really freaky. So that part of it is definitely not positive. And so as we are trying to take down the dark controller groups on the planet and call these things out, you know, we're healing this planetary body. We're healing our relationship with it. So exposing these crimes against humanity and putting an end to human trafficking and child trafficking rings, and calling out those in power that are engaged in these sort of ritual abuses will overthrow that tyrannical power and authority, dark authority. And then we'll begin to experience the higher side of Saturn. Scientists have also noted that the rings of Saturn have been dissolving, which would mean that that dark technology is breaking down. Tony Rodriguez has also talked about the moon one day possibly exploding. And because of the artificial component of the moon and the fact that it's sort of like a artificial satellite and a base, you know, that might help free us up as well. But yeah, it's like a ship. Supposedly there's like aliens inside. And pretty much certain it's the grays. So anyway, so that's the dark part of Saturn. And we are, definitely healing it. It's connected to the Black Sun agenda, which is the draconian dark agenda. And so yeah, the Saturn's black cube holds a massive tank that is that harvesting station that utilizes the media as well. Anything that is about social engineering and mind control, it can harvest us. It's not just the ritual abuses. It's the greater sort of ritual of the sort of black magic trickery that comes through false news and fake history, false history, and all that kind of stuff. Because anytime we're not connected with our truth, we get easily drained. We're connected with a belief system outside of ourselves, and it's not authentic. And so it sucks on us. Okay, so I hope that answered that. And that's the thing, when we're in a truth frequency, our bodies are able to transform and heal. So these false belief systems, people are so afraid of this virus, they should be more concerned about where their belief systems are going. Because we are moving into this ascension energy. We have been for a long time, and it upgrades our ability to transform and heal and alchemize things and neutralize dark weaponry and wipe out things easily, like a virus. Like we'd be moving into an energy that, none of that should be feared or it's a part of the greater growth period that we're in, though, to face this challenge, because it's bringing on the Great Awakening. When we're being pushed to the edge in the way that we are, it can force people to wake up, but it can also have the opposite effect, which is, greater enslavement and control. So the first one's a major arcana. It's the moon, and the moon is about intuition, our emotional body, our sensitivities, sort of navigating through the feeling nature, just does that feel, does that feel like good or not good? It's like being in touch with your intuition, and it's upright. So your intuition is very strong right now. And so, it's kind of having that sense where you can kind of discern truth from the lies based on having this kind of strong intuition, because you just know. It's a knowingness, it's a feeling. So that's very strong. And there's a lot about just emotional contentment. You've got the happy card. It's the 9 of Cups. And although it's not a major arcana, I always like to bring this particular one up because it's one of my favorite minor arcana cards, because everybody's happy, swimming by the pool, playing their drums. And it's just like bright and high vibrational, positive energy. So a lot of it is about emotional contentment in the face of a lot of the adversity, a lot of the struggles that people are going through, and the confusion about what's going on in the world. And you're doing very good at like not absorbing too much. And that's probably been something you've been working on for a while, is to not take on everybody's stuff and to be able to still be sensitive and tuned in and intuitive and aware without getting like the empathic overload or taking on too much. So keeping that vibration high through just contentment, taking care of your needs, and making sure that you're doing things that bring about joy and fun is sort of how you can shield yourself and protect yourself from taking on too much or letting the stuff going on in the outer world become too overwhelming. And at the core of your energy, you got the major arcana of Justice, which is all about balance. So you're holding a lot of balance, and the emotional well-being is key for you to stay and feel in balance. And so you're doing a really good job with that. And you're just, you got the Devil card, but it's in the placement of something that you're concerned about, and that it's in the placement of the reading of the things that you're sort of wary of, or well, it's considered the placement of what one fears and what one also hopes for, right? So I would definitely say this is probably something that would bring about a little bit more anxiety than not. So that just means basically this archetype has to do with control, tyranny, and the dark agendas, right? So it's in the placement of like concern, but it's not in you. It's not in your system. It's not an energy that you're holding. It's like you're holding it over here and you're aware of it, but you're not allowing it to penetrate your being. And so you're staying sovereign, because when it penetrates our being, we start to get kind of siphoned off of, and it just, can create a lot of constriction and anxiety. Then you got the Chariot, though, and this is the energy that you're moving into. This is kind of what's coming in, what you're stepping into, and it's the Chariot, body, mind, spirit integration. The Chariot is very much, our own personal vehicle integrated with mind, body, spirit. able to move forward and manifest victory. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's like, you're like the chariot, you're creating, victory. And positive developments are happening. So there's a great flow there. There's a really good card. And then you got the Hangman, which is a major arcana. And the Hangman has a lot to do with surrender to source, and kind of like it's in the hands of God, and just holding that trust and maintaining emotional wellness and balance is everything. So if you notice, anxiety start to come in, or you start to feel that overwhelm, just press the reset button, do something wonderful for yourself, nurture yourself, have the boundaries where you need them to be able to, just take care of your well-being, and you're in great shape. And it looks like things are falling into place, but there's not a whole lot we can do about some of the outer events, except for, be our participant in our micro world to the collective consciousness, and hold strong intent and engage our creative energy in really positive ways, so that our creative energy doesn't get entangled in a lot of the propaganda and the fear and all these different tactics that they use to throw us off. And you're doing awesome. And you're going to hold a lot of strength for those around you too. You'll help them feel like reassured, because you have that spiritual connection, and that you're just in that divine flow and alignment. So it's all really good.
Laura, Happy New Year. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, take care. A lot of these changes have been taking place, and it's kind of leading up to a peak time, which this solstice sort of represents with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the sign of Aquarius. Jupiter and Saturn just left the sign of Capricorn this week. We just moved through the 13th sign of Fiacus. That ended on December 17th. So as we get closer to Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which some have noted looks like the Star of Bethlehem because of how close in proximity they are, this particular alignment hasn't happened since 1405. It's gonna probably feel uplifting. Like there might be some event that puts a lot of positive energy into the hearts and minds of people. It might be just a really, really positive development that we experience on the world stage. But regardless of what happens as far as what we see in the world, it could be a big breakthrough about this virus, or indication that the New World Order really isn't going to succeed, which it's not. But the knowingness and the feeling of it should really be strong December 21st. And it'll be something that we each feel in our own lives. So, more than likely, there's just going to be a lot of positivity. I was talking about it last night on Edge of Wonder, and Jupiter is very benevolent, very high vibrational. It expands and illuminates everything it touches. In the sign of Aquarius, when we think of the Aquarian age, it's a lot more about our higher mind. It's about moving into higher energies connected to sovereignty, liberation, and truth. But the shadow of Aquarius and Uranus is dark technologies, because there's a shadow side to every planet. So if we're not going through the awakening part of it, and we're always in fear, it's easy for us to stay hooked to the darker side of any planetary body's consciousness. So the shadow of a planet that's all about liberation would be false liberation, like transhumanism or negative solutions, because we're not trusting our own power. We're not allowing ourselves to go through the upgrade, recognizing that we're the most advanced technology. I'm not saying all technology is bad at all. There's a lot of really positive technology and ways that we can use it. Benevolent, higher sort of ET sort of technology, free energy, all that kind of stuff. So we're moving more into that kind of world, but depending on the level of a person's consciousness will determine how they experience it and what sort of timeline they're on. So for those that are really on board with this positive flow, more than likely are going to have a lot of big breakthroughs. And Jupiter, will sort of neutralize a lot of the darkness of Saturn as well. And as Saturn moves into Aquarius, it gives it, already a higher, kind of energy. But it's up to us to, hold, a connection to the frequencies of these planetary bodies and alignments that are of the highest expression, that bring about our greater potential. So it requires a lot of inner work and a lot of trust in the self, and grounding with nature, because the planetary consciousness is bringing about ascension. The planetary bodies encoded with ascension, energies. The mother energy has returned. It's a 13-dimensional monadic core, and these activations are taking place. So we'll probably feel more of that lightness of energy as we've all gone through this collective dark night of the soul. You know, it's like things will feel a lot lighter and brighter, and it's just going to get stronger as we approach December 21st. And depends where one is in the world, you know? I mean, I can't say that everybody across the board is necessarily going to feel this way, especially if they're in lockdown or there's a lot of BS mandates going on, but we have to know and remember it's temporary. And no matter what we kind of see in that regard, not to give our power away, to stay in a high, you know, frequency, to feel really encouraged, knowing that the planetary body and the consciousness of this planet wants what we want. And the mother energy is here to nurture her children and help us to move through this very, very dark period where they're holding on to us for dear life. And this is going to take place for a bit because Saturn is going to square Uranus all into like next year and the year after. So there's going to be a bit of that power struggle going on where, you know, the whole process of liberation is not going to come right away as Saturn makes a square. The squares are friction. It means it's holding on, doesn't want to let us go. It's going to create all sorts of scenarios that might feel defeating or discouraging, but we just have to keep holding our alignment and our connection with, you know, these, you know, higher energies, because we are generators. I mean, we're creative beings. We're always creating through, you know, from our thoughts, from our, you know, actions and our words. And we're in a huge growth period right now when it comes to the throat chakra, because the North and South node are in Gemini and Sagittarius. The South node's in Sagittarius, the North node's in Gemini. So there's a lot about just the words we're choosing to speak, because our words create our reality. And if there's mind control or social engineering or falsities, then we're amplifying the artificial through our words. So this is part of the growth period, is connecting with the truth frequency so that our words are activating. So our words are creative and co-creative with the flow of this ascension energy. So integrity, you know, is in compassion and doing what we can to maintain spiritual hygiene, you know, because just like anything, we have to do that in the physical world. We have to do that with our mental health, our emotional health. But when we don't have spiritual hygiene, we attract entities and archons. And so we have to, you know, just take good care of ourselves in that way, because we are literally helping to manifest this ascension energy through the vehicle of our human, you know, consciousness and vessel. And they're trying to hijack it, and they're doing everything they possibly can. But no doubt we're on the organic ascension timeline, all of us. So we'll just do our best to assist friends and family, and especially the shot. You know, that is the most ultimate weapon in these times to sabotage what's available for us. So that's going to be really difficult, because we're going to see friends and loved ones wanting to go that route. But fortunately, the vaxes were released during the Trump administration. So more than likely they're not the weaponized version, but still got to be careful and extremely discerning. So I think there's going to be a lot more positive energy coming through. And, but remember, every time it gets heavy, it's just something that you're releasing or purging. It's temporary. You know, the true vibration of the truth frequency is a very high vibration, and it's filled with wisdom and love. And it knows, it has a knowingness about where we're all heading. And it helps us to align with synchronicities and those spontaneous downloads. And it gives us the information we need when we need it most. So if we can keep ourselves from being distracted, we will get the guidance we need when we need it most. It's when we watch too much television or allow our belief systems or our mental bodies to get engaged and entangled and just all the junk outside of us, we can't hear our inner voice. We can't tap into our intuition, and we miss the downloads. And instead of getting downloads, we get panic attacks and anxiety. So just, you know, hold space for yourself. You know, when you feel anxiety, just get away from everyone and everything, shut down everything and just breathe. And then before you know it, you'll start to get messages and guidance. And that's what this next year is all about. That's what the Aquarian energy is all about. And that's what December 21st is really kicking off, is our ability to really be aligned with higher truth, our own higher self. And then how we integrate that into the physical world will allow it to become a way of life instead of just a concept, you know, where we have lower self, higher self, you know, where the integration of polarity between the higher and the physical plane will begin to really, really take off.